just have to see what's going on, what's happening in Hillsborough.
Hi, Will Baker here with another episode of What's Happening Hillsborough. Today we're up at Danville Airport with Hillsborough's finest, and with me today is the police chief, Mr. Dwayne Hampton. How you doing, Dwayne? Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
So they're doing some driver safety training up here, and if you don't mind, could you just tell us a little bit about what's taking place?
Absolutely, Will. Thank you. We're out here today trying to provide some training to our officers. What we've got are a bunch of instructors who teach driving in a number of disciplines nationally. And the focus is on helping our officers build, develop, learn good habits, good car control. Officers drive all the time. That's what they spend most of their time out here doing when they're on patrol. And it's one of the areas that we really want to focus on from a safety standpoint. Nationally, driving-related deaths is one of the top killers of law enforcement officers. So we're out here today trying to reinforce good habits, give the officers chances to kind of experiment, learn how to drive the car, learn to control the car in a number of situations. We're going to put situations on them where they have to listen to the radio and make decisions in response. And a lot of what we've set up out here is not just about the driving, but about making the right decisions that go with it, be it for safety, for policy, for image, all of the things that are important to us to make sure we're doing the job the right way and we're being responsible and we're being safe.
That's awesome. Well, I heard a term out here earlier called slower is faster. Could you explain exactly what that means?
It's a concept we're trying to get all of the law enforcement officers to understand, and this is something that is not just a Hillsborough thing. We've been teaching this concept statewide in collaboration with the League of Municipalities, but the idea is helping them understand that controlling the car, keeping it under control while it may not seem fast, is actually going to be faster. We're teaching the officers that by making the right decisions, by braking early, by having their vision down, what we call downrange or further downstream where they can see what's happening, they're able to control the car. They're not having to slide the car, to skid the car, to lock up their brakes. And what's happening is, to the officer, it feels like you're slower because you don't have the excitement and the slide of the car. But the reality is, when you put the time on it, they're going to be faster. They're making up time. They're driving safer. They're being more responsible. So that the idea of slower is faster, that we don't have to drive irresponsibly to be fast. We can drive conservatively, carefully, using the right techniques, and we're going to be faster.
So we leave the reckless stuff in Hollywood and we're going to do the safe stuff here in Hillsborough.
Absolutely. Good habits. That's what it's all about, is building good, safe habits and reinforcing the right kind of decisions.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks a lot, Chief, for your time, and we're going to go watch some training now.
Great. Thank you, Will.
I was asked this question: what is the most important thing about today? Safety. We all go home in one piece, uninjured. So I know everybody read through the safety rules, so I just want to hit some of the highlights on that again because they're so important. This morning, we want you to drive these cars as hard as you're comfortable doing it, because that's how you learn. We want you to understand what it feels like if you lock the brakes up, if the ESC or the ABS kicks in, and to make mistakes so you can learn to correct those. Plus, it gets a little bit of adrenaline pumping. So we want to push you hard this morning. So drive hard, not stupid, but hard. And if this is the limit of the car, and if you're driving underneath it, the instructors over here are going to push you. They want to push you hard enough so you understand what's going on. The reason we want you to drive the car this morning at the limit is, in the real world, if you start feeling you're approaching the limit of the car, that means you're driving too hard and you don't have any room for error. So you need to know where the limit is to stay away from it in a real situation. If you're going way over the limit, then they're going to reel you back in a little bit. So the focus of, just the basics this morning: looking ahead, braking, being smooth and progressive with your hands and feet, and then understanding where to place the car. That's why we focus on the basics. That's what's most likely to save you in an accident and keep you out of trouble out on the street.
With me now is John Page, and John has been out here helping with some of the driver's training, but I understand you're doing some testing out here as well, and I saw some of these guys with these funny looking hats. So can you tell me exactly what all that's about?
I can. The hats are used to measure brain activity, so they're caps that have electrodes in them so that we can measure and see how the brain's responding to different tasks. So one of the things that I'm interested in as a cognitive neuroscientist is seeing how the brain processes things like attention, memory, perception, those types of things. And then when you get out into the real world and say, how does that work when, for example, a police officer is driving a car at high speeds, are there changes on how the brain operates under those situations? So we're here measuring the brain activity while they're driving and multitasking by listening to some beep sound in the car and having to keep track of that to see how that works at high speed.
Okay, so I guess multitasking really isn't such a great thing to do while you're driving a police car, but I can see where your test is coming from. So I guess they're listening for a beep while driving and trying to count the beeps, I guess, while going through the course.
They are. So it involves dividing your attention between what you're driving and what you're hearing,
okay.
But it also includes some working memory and keeping track of information, so kind of juggling information in your mind and adding counts to it as you go. So it's meant to simulate if you're driving at high speed and you get information that maybe you have to respond to a call and the dispatcher's giving you some information, you're trying to hold that information in your mind and remember it while you're driving to kind of see how that works.
Cool. So how long do you think it'll be before you have all this analyzed and computed and stuff?
Well, so it's going to take a little bit of time, but maybe sometime after Christmas, maybe in January or so, I'll be able to get a report back to the city and let you know what we found out here today.
Well, that's great. We sure appreciate you coming out here and doing all this for the town, and hopefully we can have you back and we'll discuss the findings.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
All right.
All right, we're going to go. So I'm going to get on it as hard as I can in these cars. And if you did, which I thought you did a good job, I'm going to stay in the way. When it's on the road, I can get on the brakes here.
Right.
And bring it around. Open the wheel and get back on the gas, believe it or not. Slow it down here so I can be under control. Just a little bit of gas now. Get a little more. Come forward. Brake early. Get a rhythm. So I turn up here, braking now. So I can stay under control. Looking around. To see where it's getting us, whether it's shooting the light. Braking down. Back on the gas. Brake in. Right. Gas. Gotta go. Slow and look. Good. Very quick. Stay right. And then brake it down really hard so I can get in here. And get out of here. Trying to look ahead. I can see out of this car very well. On the gas. Stay to the left so I can get a good turn. Braking early. Back on the gas. One thing we don't say, and I think about it and I don't say it is, and he's probably said it in your classroom, is that you can certainly control the car better if you're giving it gas rather than brake, which is yet another reason you want to get your braking done early so you can get back on the gas, like especially when you come out of these tight spots right there. Because if you're still braking, you're just going to push right over those cones.
Push through it, yeah.
So as you can see, the town of Hillsborough is very serious and very proud of all the driving safety training that it offers its police force as well as its staff. And that's what's happening in Hillsborough.